All right. All right. Welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. If you're on the west coast of Africa, that's in Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, anywhere you're from, good afternoon. And I want to welcome you to the first webinar which Fida by ThriveAgric is hosting, Navigating Food Inflation, Strategies for African Agribusinesses to Weather the Storm. And welcome, welcome. We would be starting in a few minutes. I think we will just give some more time for a couple more people to join. We can see a lot of people streaming in. So we will just give it maybe 1-2 more minutes and then we kick it off live. But get comfortable, say hello in the comment section and welcome. So we'll kick off live in 1 or 2 more minutes. Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for your patience. I think we have a couple of people in now, and we're actually very good to go. So thank you for joining us. This is Fida by ThriveAgric in collaboration with Harvest, bringing you the first webinar on navigating food inflation, strategies for African businesses to weather the storm. So just want to let you know very quickly about uh, the people, the companies bringing this webinar to you today. So ThriveAgric's mission is building the largest network of profitable African farmers, and Harvest mission is to improve women's lives through greater access to and use of financial services. So, food inflation is something that is not a stranger to most of us here. You probably have had to go to your supermarket or to the market and you asked the price of your common staple rice, Indomie. I heard Indomie, the prices of noodles is going through the roofs these days. So, I'm sure you must be wondering what is really happening. So, at the end of this webinar, we should be able to get a sense of what is really happening and what we can do about it as players in the agriculture space. And even if you aren't a player, I mean, one way or the other, navigating food inflation is something that is something of concern to you. So very quickly, I'm going to welcome you to Fida and just let you know what the platform is all about. So Fida is simply the best way to manage farmers, to trade commodities, and to drive increased profitability for your business. It's a suite of applications designed to revolutionize the way you do your business. So with Fida Farm, you can understand how your business is doing, manage all your processes, and those are just some metrics we've helped business achieve till date. This is what it looks like. It's you can get a glance of what's happening in your agritech business, and with Feeder Farm, you can manage all your processes from planting all the way to harvest. So, yep, some great players in the space today, I'm sure, on this call, and just looking forward to seeing all the great things we can do after this webinar. So this is a very short success story and the live presentation before I get it out of your way and get to ask our presenters some questions. And we're here to get some key insights, get your notebooks, get your notepads, and we'll dive right in. So FIDA helped ThriveAgric scale, for example, by helping us gain access to more credits because we've de-risked our business with technology. We will touch on some of those in the question and answer session with Ayo and Sholakbe. Thank you so much for joining us. So I'm sure this is something that is not strange to all of us. Nigeria's inflation hits almost 30% amid high food prices. I saw this article about a week ago. And I mean, some of us can challenge these numbers because it does feel a little bit more than 30%. But this is what was reported by the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, National Bureau of Statistics, and that's the number we have. But yes, I'm sure it doesn't feel like 30%, but we'll get very shortly to that. So now I want to get out of your way and into question and answer mode because you must be wondering, when do we get all the juicy information? So I'm going to start off with Ayo. Ayo is the CTO and co-founder of ThriveAgric. ThriveAgric is a fast-growing agri-tech company, and our vision is to build an Africa that can feed herself and the world. I'm going to be inviting Ayo up, and we have one very quick take from Ayo before we throw him into the deep end. So Ayo, it's good to have you today. How are you feeling? How are you feeling about this?
I'm good. Glad to be here. Thanks, Isaiah. And I'm glad to see Shalako here also.
Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. We're always happy to see you. The last time we saw you, you were doing some great things online as well. So it's always good to catch you on camera. So Aya, what is one interesting thing you've discovered after operating in the African market all these years? I mean, there's a key interesting thing you should have discovered that you would like to share with us all today.
Um, I think the opportunity is massive, right? Like
Mm,
it's just still how, like, as you go across markets, across different states, the challenges are still the same, right? Like, I think I was joking to some people I saw that it's still the same woman holding a O in front of a slide that I saw in primary school, right? That people are still using to raise money in 2023. So it's still like the opportunity is massive. Like there's still a lot of problems to be solved. We haven't scratched the surface. And as much as
mhm.
that might seem very daunting or challenging, it just shows like anyone that can solve it, there's like a really big market to
Mm,
address, whether that's with technology or innovative business models or like finance or some sort of structured partnerships. But I think
yep.
like consistent across markets, whether it's in Nigeria, Ghana, Uganda, is literally the same story that exists at mass. So yeah.
Okay, okay, that's great. The opportunity is massive. So if you have the woman with the hoe on your pitch deck, please go and update that if you're in the business. The opportunity is massive. That's not just what it's all about. Thank you so much, Aya, for sharing that. I'm going to be moving all the way over to Sholakme, who is the CEO and co-founder of Harvest. And I'm going to be inviting her to the stage to give her quick take on how she's coped essentially and how Harvest has coped. How have you coped with running a business in Nigeria with an ever challenging macroeconomic landscape that is difficult to predict? Not great for business.
I know. Thank you so much, Fisayo, and good afternoon, good day, everyone. It's a pleasure being here, and most importantly, pleasure having this conversation with Fida by ThriveAgric, and Ayo particularly, and that would be my first answer to your question. How have we coped? We have coped by making desperate calls to colleagues to say, "What's going on?" Right, and that's my first answer, to say that it's chicken little, heaven is falling, it's on all of us, and that
Mm,
realization first is enough to calm everyone. Right,
yeah.
it's on all of us. Globally, we have had staggering inflation statistics. Some economies in Europe are officially in a recession, and then because of our own particular landscape with different socio-political movements, economic factors moving at the same time,
Hmm.
we are, like they say on the streets, really going through it. So
Yeah.
firstly, that acknowledgement helps, because it then means that you're not losing your mind, you're not imagining things. They are really, what you think they are,
Mm,
as bad as it gets. And then you reach out, don't stay alone. So how have we coped, particularly for us, and what can people take away from this? The
yeah.
first thing, because I'm a certified financial educator as well, and I
Hmm.
discuss finance a lot, and there are two wings to coping or creating wealth and all of that. And you have that wing that the first thing they say is, what, cost cuts, like
Yeah.
just put a break on so many things. I am not particularly if a believer in that as first line of action.
Mm,
However, I believe strongly in diversification, and that was what Harvest has done.
mm,
Like, we diversified, we 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 decoupled, unbundled, and rebundled a lot, right?
okay.
To cope with with the current macroeconomic landscape
Hmm.
that's difficult to predict. And one of the things that we did, for instance, initially, was for like our first 3 years, we're heavily focused,
Hmm.
um, understandably so, on connecting women farmers to blended financing. That is,
Okay.
trainings, and connecting them to markets. But we realized quickly that that wasn't going to be sustainable, particularly in this current
Mm,
economic landscape. And then we extended, for instance, to say, yes, credit is credit, women are women. If it's inclusive, even women that are in other value chains, as long as it's women-led, women-owned, can get access to this credit as well. And so you see, in that form, we've not exactly lost a connection to our big vision, right,
Mm.
or to our mission, but then we diversified, um, got a lending license and started, that. So diversification is the first thing that I would say. And if you look quite long into your business, you see, channels of diversifying. I'll give an instance because I want to believe that there are many people on this call within the agriculture value chain and outside. I just got off a call with a friend of mine who
Mm-hmm.
um, is largely into design, business of design,
Yeah.
and branding essentially. And in marketing, branding design is luxurious. I mean, it's considered, it's not exactly well received in these parts.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he mentioned that he was struggling, he said you just got to diversify, and that is consider marketing. People want to see performance marketing and all of that. So diversification is key, and after diversification, we can then
Yeah.
start considering cost cutting measures, because that is key as well. Because if
Yeah.
you diversify, get your numbers up, or you get your numbers to a place where you can breathe, or even though you're gasping, and you don't cut measures, you might successfully take yourself backwards again.
Yeah.
So for instance, at Harvest, we've had to do a lot of cost cutting measures,
Mm-hmm.
introduce hybrid. We're doing hybrid, but we're doing 3 days at work before.
Yeah.
Now in 2 days, you won't be surprised if we make it one day. At the end of the day, everyone is happy. We are happy. Everyone is happy that we get to work from home. But then that is where technology also helps to track that, all of us,
Yeah.
because indiscipline is one of the burdens of human beings regardless of best intentions. Other things are building strong relationships, and that's where I'll stop so that I don't take this question. There are tons of them, so I don't,
Yeah.
I allow my boss Ayo speak further to this, and that's where
Yeah.
human relationships come in. We have to, particularly on the continent. Ayo mentioned the opportunities are massive. We've got to stop being transactional or overly transactional with everything.
Mm.
Um, be willing to go the extra, mile, for instance, to renegotiate with your suppliers, to say, hey, this is what the challenge is, this is how we are, and then be willing to trade some good on the table too. Not everything has got to be, oh, my time is got to be paid, this.
Mm.
So this is when it is very important to invest in our personal relationships, in business relationships, and that is only when, like I said, when I answered the question first, like it's okay to call someone and say, how is it at your end, and how is that at your end, without anyone feeling like you're actually a user, because nobody wants to be used. So I'll just stop there, and
Yeah.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. That's a whole lot of wisdom in one answer. From diversification to cost cutting to reaching out to other players in the space, to building some of those strong relationships, renegotiating with suppliers, seeing where you can further drive those costs down so that you can keep those margins up. Thank you so much for sharing, Shalakbe. So I'll be going. I'll be going right back to Aya actually. So, Aya, thinking of the impact on smallholders, how has inflation impacted smallholder farmers in Nigeria, and what strategies can they employ to mitigate this effect? Because I know you do a lot of work. ThriveAgric, we do a lot of work with smallholder farmers. How has inflation affected them, their actual lives, and what strategies can they employ to mitigate this effect?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like very tricky. When you look at things like cost of inputs, right? Last year, cost of inputs was almost, I don't know, like 50-60% on what it was the previous year,
Mm,
right? And like we were screaming at Tribe, like, oh wow, this is so high. How will farmers cope? A lot of farmers will not plant. And I mean, we tried to support as many as we could, right? But like, the reality is that there was so much we could do. We did a lot, but like there's still so much left. And I think that we thought like we are the worst, right? And this year, like price of inputs are almost like 100% what they were last year, right? And so you're just like, where did this smallholders farmers start from, right? Like,
yeah,
what's really the reality, right? Are people
yeah,
actually even to plant? And I think what we see is, I mean, that's actually also like a very significant even security risk, right? Because like if they're
Yeah.
not working, what would they do, right?
Mm-hmm.
um and so there's just so much to figure out, both from just one, what's happening with like inputs, what's happening with like even their access to land from a security perspective,
Mm-hmm.
um and how can smallholder farmers play. You know, when you ask what can smallholder farmers do,
Yeah.
it's very tricky because I don't know that they can do anything, right? It's more like, it's more like what can we do for them?
Mm.
I mean, of course, there's a lot. I think there's still stuff they can do together. I mean, coming together as a group, as cooperatives, and
Mm-hmm.
ensuring like there's one voice, like setting up some sort of structure,
Mm-hmm.
and ensuring that they can actually access organizations together. But I think what things like organizations like Harvest and us and many other great organizations can do is still seeing how can we ensure we can get them this inputs, this finance at the right prices, right? And not alone, obviously, like in partnership with government, partnership with like um inputs manufacturers, whether that's from fertilizers to seeds. Because the reality is, in a sense, like the thing about agriculture is like it's very time
Yeah.
Excel sheets, right? Like you are not going to fix food inflation.
Yeah.
Um, if farmers don't go to the farm in March and April, like no matter what you do, like food prices are already expensive till at least the next big harvest, which is September next year, right? So it's not like the decisions we take
Wow.
from now till maybe May is going to affect us for the next 1 year and 5 months, right? And so this is like the sad reality, right? And if you see where input prices sit today, you can
Mm.
already predict what food prices are going to look like by the end of next year. I mean, between now and the end of next year. So it's quite tricky, but I think there's still definitely like a lot of like how do we get access to things like constitutional finance. And I think what we're doing at Thrive is partnering with a lot of organizations, trying to partner with like DFIs and co, and sure we can still get farmers financing at like a very decent rate.
Mm-hmm.
If not single digits, at least lower double digits, right? In a way that they can still
Yeah.
go and finance and partner with input dealers to ensure that we can get farmers the right inputs, right? So
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to like now instead of buying so many bags of urea and fertilizers, can we get
Mm-hmm.
them to buy a few bags, but like that has like the right nutrients that increase their yield? So like
Mm.
not spending as much, because you
Yeah.
are planting accurately, right? You're using exactly what makes sense for your land, especially
Yeah.
exactly what makes sense for crops, and not just like blanket spraying. So
Yeah.
that's some of the structures that we're working with, and
Mm-hmm.
trying to fix it, right? But I think there's still a lot more that needs to be done. We need like more people in this space. I think it's a great opportunity also, as much as it's a challenge, right? Like food prices
Yeah.
are up globally everywhere. And
Mm-hmm.
whoever has that supply, in a sense, can command the rewards, right? Like the export markets are open all over the world. I mean, when you look at what's happening across the world, all the wars going on, right? There's a lot of focus on Africa for food. And so if we
Yeah.
can get our farmers planting, if we can get our farmers producing right, then we
Yeah.
can end that foreign exchange that we so desperately need. So I think, yeah, it's a challenge, but like there's also a big opportunity there,
Mhm.
that could be addressed.
Beautiful, fantastic, fantastic. Wow, these are a lot of great insights. From farmers coming together as one voice to actually deploying precision farming so that you're using the least amount of input to get the maximum amount of output, which is grains at the end of the harvest. But I was not so excited to hear Ayo that we are not going to, be able to have a magic button to flip our finger and fix the prices today because they have to harvest and that process has to go on. So I think the indicator of we could say that fertilizer prices are a good indicator of where food inflation and hence inflation nationally is actually looking like. So I think we should brace up and just prepare for the next couple of months. So yeah, more people in the space also helps. You mentioned that food prices are up globally, not just in Nigeria, not just in African countries. It is a global phenomenon. I think it was a bit ridiculous in some countries because I was listening, let's say, in North American region, in some European region, and they're complaining, our inflation is up. It's 7%. It's so terrible. It's so difficult. We can't do anything. And I was smiling because if you know, you know. From the beginning of this webinar, we saw a number that looks like 30%, although it feels like 3 to 5 times that number in reality. Um, I think I'm just going to go over to Sholape actually, to help us understand. Sholape, you're going to help us understand how do we encourage women's participation in agribusiness? How do we include them? Specifically, what strategies can be implemented to increase women's participation in agribusiness? Because you mentioned that Harvest started from thinking around how do we include and drive female farmers, for example. So how do we do this on a national scale? How do we do this on a continental scale so that Africa can really unlock this supply to meet the demands?
Beautiful. Yes, many ways. So I'll just try and limit it to firstly the challenges, particularly holding women, a lot of women back, and some evidence statistics as well. Um, Again, tomorrow is International Women's Day. The whole of
Yeah.
March is Women's History Month. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you for this very apt and timely question. Um, firstly, the bulk, and by bulk, somewhere around 65% to 75% of the rural labor population in Nigeria's agriculture is
Mm-hmm.
made up of women. And even though that sounds like a lot, by the time you look at their current contribution to output and in terms of voluminous level or participation level, I mean, it's they are mostly subsistence farmers, smallholder farmers at the base of even the smallholder bubble as well. What I'm trying to establish firstly is that we have a very untapped bulk of women farmers
Yeah.
who we really need to sweat their willingness and their capacity to contribute to the current food shortage systems that
Mm-hmm.
we have. With our experience with these women, three major things that are the
Mm-hmm.
challenges. The first one is the time poverty, which goes back to the care economy. Um, the women are largely responsible, particularly in the rural areas where we know that that's where the bulk of the agricultural,
Mm-hmm.
particularly production activities take place. So the bulk of the women are, caregivers, and if you look at the rates of their reproduction too, they are almost caregiving, for a good part of their productive years. Caregiving is beautiful. I have had the pleasure of doing so for two of my children, but I know again that it can be time consuming mentally and physically as well. So what that means is that when great conversations, progressive conversations, particularly around agriculture, are there, a woman is either fetching firewood, water, and all of that. So
Yeah.
they don't have the social permission to take part in these conversations. The second one is the access to capital, which also goes back to the time
Mm.
challenges, right? And because they lack, if you look at our social cultural makeup, if we be honest with ourselves, we are a patriarchal society, right? We
Yeah.
have had issues where even a few just last about 2 weeks ago, we executed this project, the Action Harvest Women Digital Training, and we had like five women lined up with one man, the wives of one man, and they came as children will follow parents, and
Mm.
even the phone that is the mobile device in that household, it was just his own number because he handles that. So you look at all of these layered issues and realize that it just underwhelms the access, the level of capital these women can get access to. Then the third
Mm.
one is connection to markets, which we are grateful see ThriveAgric, to see Fida, bridging that gap as well. These women just do not have that access as much as the men do. So,
Yeah.
what strategies can be implemented to increase this participation? It's by flipping the problem card and lowering those challenges to see how we can turn them to solutions, for them. For instance, we simply need to provide an enabling environment for participation, for them.
Yeah.
We go on the field, we are there, we are very, very big in Kwara and Niger states. You
Okay.
know, women just know the women organizations there, so fun gaff, they just know harvest, and they know that it's harvest is laser focused on connecting them to all of these missed opportunities that we've said. So that representation in itself is assuring and reassuring for them, and that's why I always say that, hey, we need more participants. It
Yeah.
can never be enough. The challenges are so huge. Thrive, Harvest, alone cannot. Other organizations cannot. So we need participants with genuine intention to also come
Mm.
in and solve for
Mm.
this. Yeah, well, I would also say that one of the, aside from the representation, that is, a woman is, they are laser focused on us, is
Yeah.
harvest. That helps, that gives some level of representation and recognition for them, and
Yes.
recognition is key. Is also to see, for instance, I would love to see some government funders have maybe childcare facilities around these, rural areas, for instance, that can also
Mm.
help, free up some time for these women, to participate more. Whatever they contribute is not just for them. Yes, it's for them, but it's been evidence that more than 90% of whatever a woman earns, you know, is given, goes back into their households. I can relate.
Yeah.
A lot of you on this call can relate, right? And when it goes back into their households and societies, it goes back into that
Yeah.
into the community and the economy generally.
Mm-hmm.
Um, other things that can be done are, financial literacy, because when we got into some of these communities, we realized that some of them are taking loans as high as 10%, 15% monthly for, their agribusiness, and really, it was it was taking them further down into, the poverty
Yeah.
hole. So financial literacy is one of the things that Harvest does in these
Yeah.
communities. We have built curriculum around them, particularly for credit, good agronomy practices we learn to them, and we have also leveraged on technology by uploading all of this on the USSD platform, where they can just simply dial from their non-internet
Mm.
enabled devices. So aside from training them, we also leave them with those opportunities, by even when we leave the field, they can connect and keep learning. There are more and more, but I'll just stop there just so that we keep
Yeah.
moving. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That was very insightful, Shalakwe, genuinely. You spoke about more market participants should come in, not just these women that we want to be included, but participants that can stimulate the economic activity. You spoke also about like government funders having childcare around these facilities. And it's not just because we want to provide childcare, it's because you understand that women's participation in agribusiness is limited because of this time poverty. They are spending a lot of time on childcare. So if the government sees a strategic advantage to taking some of that time off the female farmers, they would have more time to farm because their outcome, their output is not just for their personal consumption, it's going into the economy of Nigeria, into the household. So I think, yeah, you spoke about financial literacy. Taking a loan at 10% per month for agriculture might not be the wisest way to go to try and improve productivity on a national scale. So these women need to be educated that you should not be taking loans at exorbitant interest rates, for example. Um, to farm and to do business in the agriculture space. And you spoke about technology. So before I zoom in a little bit more on technology, I'm just going to keep you on the spotlight a little bit longer. I'd like to encourage our participants. I see some people actually commenting. So you can also drop your thoughts in the comments if you're a listener here on the comment section on LinkedIn. We can also display some of your comments so that we can discuss it here on the stage. So, from the first question, how are businesses coping so far? If you're a business, if you've run an agribusiness, whether it's a poultry, whether it's you grew some bell peppers in your backyard, whether it's on a bigger scale, you did livestock. How have you actually coped so far with the rising food inflation? What are some interesting or innovative things you've done? So feel free to drop that in the comment section. Let's keep the conversation going. And yeah, we might just pick it up from the comment and take it up from there. So yeah, so Shalagwe, I'm going to have you on the spot just a little bit longer. Yeah, talking about building this resilience, right, with technology. I know you mentioned USSD, and maybe you can speak a little bit more to that. How do you see technology playing a role in improving the resilience of businesses in general during times of inflation like this? Because we should be thinking of ways to solve our problems. Technology is one of them. How do you see technology playing a role?
Thank you, Fisayo. Firstly, we cannot overemphasize the role of technology. And I would also want to firstly, diffuse that fear that when we hear technology, we are expecting something like a big bang,
Yeah,
some robotic AI. I mean, it isn't so. All of us are familiar with technology. If you are accessing this conversation, thank you for making out the time. But it's enabled by technology largely.
yeah,
I particularly am enjoying the StreamYard, the flow, and all of that.
yeah.
And that is because Fida adopted this technology to bring this knowledge to all of us. And that's how I want us to, you know, approach technology, to see even existing technologies that we use right in our businesses and our agribusinesses, how can we build on them? And the first one I would want to speak about is making data driven decisions.
Okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm expecting, that the feeder product, for instance,
Yeah,
would really, really help with this because they'll be leveraging a lot on, data that, we've imputed, and then it can then predict patterns and all of that for us.
yeah.
And that's the beauty of technology for you. It helps make data driven decisions for your organization, for your projects, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not like thinking in the dark where you're saying, hey, wait a minute, oh, how many of so did we use for this last year? Then you are
Yeah,
reaching for a notebook or for an Excel sheet that somewhere, So technology helps, analyze past current trends. Like I said the other time, there are times that when I look at the cost of inputs, fertilizers and all of that. And people are in Lagos, in the cosmopolitan areas complaining. Since last year, we could predict that it was going to be like this because of how things were. So I understand that loop, right? And at this rate, there's prediction that it's probably going to get worse if we don't get major interventions because the cost of inputs are just over the roof, right?
yeah.
And so that's one of the things that technology does for you. Even with predicting cost in some cases by having your, some high level financial modelings and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
um, and so it helps you predict likely inflations and different
Yeah.
things. The second way it can help is automating repetitive processes. For
Okay.
instance, we were talking about cutting costs
Yeah.
earlier, Fisayo, and I don't know how, as businesses, we intend to thrive without prioritizing customer success,
Yeah.
handling complaints and different other things. And
Mm-hmm.
if you'd agree with me that those are cost areas where you have to deploy humans and all of that. Technology can help automate such processes, for instance.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is repetitive questions, have AI that can learn and then keep learning and
Yeah.
fill those roles. Of course, it doesn't have to totally replace humans because there are still nuances, right, and different things, but it can reduce such costs. Remote working is one of them, but going back into agriculture as well, yes, particularly in times like this where climate changes are, I mean, look at how it rained, particularly in Southwest in some weeks back, right? It
Mhm.
was raining as if we were in July, right? So technology, tracking, climate tracking, weather, is also enabled by technology. How much of that, are you using? Digital payment solutions is one of the way that technology can help facilitate markets in agribusiness or out of agribusiness.
Mhm.
In so many cases, you want to maybe sell to global markets or international markets, and then payments becomes an issue. But all of this
Yeah.
technology, is really reducing those barriers. I can go on and on, but I just want to say again, like, we should look within ourselves and see how current technologies that we use, how we can use them to accelerate things for our businesses, and of course how we can use Fida, who has taken the pain, to reduce all of that and put on the same platform for us.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. You've given a lot of key insights, and this will tie directly to me calling Ayo back. Maybe, unfortunately, I would say I don't have a pretty slide to show this question, but Ayo, I mean, I've been itching to ask you this particular question. She spoke about like technology. It shouldn't be rocket science. It shouldn't be. It doesn't have to be some fancy robots powered by AI harvesting tomatoes on your farm. Uh, so Ayo, my question to you now would be around leveraging technology for growth. So, how can Africa leverage technology to increase food production, particularly to improve yield, to reduce cost? Can you share an example from your experience that holds particular promise for ThriveAgric and for the sector at large? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, Chilakwa like hit the nail on the head on that question a lot. But I definitely do agree that it doesn't need to be grand. There are basic things that we can figure out, right? Things around just um how we ensuring that we have, as an example, when you want to finance a 10,000 farmers, right? And one of the biggest risks is there actually
Yeah.
10,000 hectares, right? Or it's 5,000 hectares. Because if you were to deploy input for 10,000 hectares on 5,000 hectares worth of
Yeah.
land, then I mean, that's already like a significant loss, right? For you as a
Yeah.
business. And even the farmers might not know. Like, I mean, time and time again, we've asked farmers what's the size of your land. We never get an accurate answer.
Okay.
Literally 100% of the time, right? And it's not because they want to be dishonest, but like they just it's just not prevalent that technology exists today where they can map out their fields and know what that looks like, right? So that's something that we see technology play a key role in that aspect.
Yeah.
And I think even just when you look at like even basic things like being able to take a soil test, right, and know what kind of fertilizer to use, right,
Yeah.
or what kind of seeds actually make sense. I mean,
Mhm.
if you're in a location that has like lots of droughts, right? Can I use a drought resistant seeds? And these are like very basic things, right? Just as I said, it's not literally until
Yeah.
you build a robot that could be very transformative in the context. I mean, even down to identity, right? You
Yeah.
can literally be in one local government and there are 1,000 people called Fisayo
Yeah.
Adeyemi, right? And but there's no unique way to identify who is who. And see, if someone comes and signs for Fisayo and then 20 days later you're coming to collect your loan, but you don't know it's not that Fisayo, right? So they're just those sort of like basic things we can fix. I do think, however, there are also other things, right? Like how can we fix things around infrastructure, from
Yeah.
storage, logistics? I mean, I was telling someone I've actually not seen, even when we talk about fresh produce, right? Maybe in a few places, maybe in the poultry sector, but like in a place like in like corn nuts, right? And maybe I'm the only one, but I've asked a couple of people. I've actually never seen a cold truck, right? Literally like on the field,
Wow.
to pick up like tomatoes or anything, like in
Yeah.
Nigeria as an example. And maybe I need to go more often, but I think I'm there as often as possible, and I still haven't seen. Right, so you see, like there are just sort of like basic infrastructure gaps that would
Yeah.
determine. I mean, so like we're miles away from exporting out fresh produce, as an example, right? When you just look at the infrastructure
Yeah.
that needs to happen. Um, but I think, however, like let's not. I think one of the advantages we've always had as Africa is our ability to skip skip what I would call just innovations in that sense, right? The way we went to the
Yeah.
mobile phone and we able to skip the landline, right? So I think let's still not discount what AI could do for us, right? Let's not discount let's not discount what robots could do for us, because actually could play a very significant space. It means that we might not be at a place where we need to for instance build more fertilizer blends, right? Like I saw a platform recently that actually designed a way to create modular ammonia, right? So this is literally like one of the core contents of fertilizers, and just like
Okay.
taking that from the atmosphere and all
Yeah.
doing it in a renewable way. So that means you can actually significantly bring the cost of fertilizers down if we were to skip that technology, right? As an example of actually like the regular fertilizers.
Yeah.
Um, I've seen people design things around just even as basic as when you look at the conversion from paddy rice to finished rice, right? Today you look at the
Yeah.
65% rate. But is it possible that with AI we could actually get that conversion from 65 to 90? Now I know it does sound far-fetched. It sounds like, oh, is this like the biggest focus? Is it like our biggest challenge today? Right. But I think like any company thinking about the future, right? Any company that wants to be here
Yeah.
in the next 100 years, right, still needs to spend some amount of time thinking about what does the future look like, and what will
Hmm.
our role in this future look like, and how can we begin
Yeah.
to invest in it today. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Ayo. Looking into the future, I like the example about, let's not underestimate ourselves as Africans, skipping the landlines and just going to mobile. And, I know Africa led on a couple of fronts, for example, in the adoption of innovative financial products, for example, just building out that ecosystem even before some more developed countries like the US and like in Europe. So it's possible to actually take technology leaps and realize those returns on a very massive scale. So thank you so much for that insight. I would come back to Shalakwe actually. She spoke a little bit about diversification, and I'm glad you did. Today is International Women's Day all around the world, and we're glad to have you spearheading this conversation alongside with Ayo. So thinking of diversification of crops, diversification of markets, diversification of income sources, it's often recommended as a strategy for resilience. Now we are facing real inflation, food inflation. So, could you provide some examples to how diversification helps businesses and individuals actually weather economic fluctuations, just like we are facing? Should we be diversifying away from some assets and into some other assets, or away from some income sources? Should we be expanding the income sources? How should we be thinking about diversification in this economic situation?
Oh well, very great question. Firstly, I would want all of us to acknowledge that we are a resource by ourselves, right? In some other ways, I like to call that a me ink, right? So that way you're looking at yourself and saying, okay, I need to have a profit and loss sheet for myself. Shall I pay? Right? What are you putting in? What are you getting out? And consider so many things as time, knowledge, health, physical
Yeah,
wellness, the many resources that you as a person you have. Having said that, the first thing I would say when it comes to diversification, because as you've rightly said, diversification of crops, markets, and income sources is a strategy for resilience, and we've established that. But for harvest, for instance, we were largely focused on the maize value chain. At the point we diversified, yeah, and expanded heavily into rice because we realized that, particularly in some areas where we could do that at any time, of the year. So it's some form of diversity. It's like how thorough is. I mentioned, some drought resistance seedlings and so many things. Just look at expand and see how thorough you as a resource. So I lead into that for sampling, and then coming back to how we can personally diversify on initiatives and to weather economic fluctuations. So
yeah,
having established that you are a resource yourself, you want to look at how to convert things that I've mentioned: time, knowledge, Yes,
Yeah.
even partnerships, even network, right?
Mm.
Your network, how can you convert those into, weathering economic inflation fluctuations, simply by saying how can you, you know earn, how can you convert those, because they are actually value. How can you package them? Yes, let's use the word, package them into, you know um, um, into a stage where people can, they exchange value for them, right? People are willing to put in their time, resource, money,
Yep.
in exchange for that. Some of it, I would use myself as, an example. In 2021, I authored a book. In 2022, forgive me, now it feels like forever. It's 2024. In 2022 December, I launched a book, Stripped: An African Woman's Guide to Building Generational Wealth.
Yeah.
And it was from, me doing a lot of research, speaking, and then people say, oh, they were able to learn, put this together, and all of that. And the possibility of me speaking to over 7 billion people, is humanly impossible. I mean,
Yeah.
so what I did was to document that in a very, very well researched and well written book.
Yep.
And, yes, I'm always for impact and then revenue. Impact, till this morning, I still got from random people. She say, oh, I picked a copy of your book. I learned this, I learned that.
Okay.
And every month end, the bookshop send me my remittances.
Mm.
Amazon parcel is sending me, from KPP to saying, okay, this is what you've learned,
Yeah.
you've learned from this. And that's one book. Imagine me authoring another, and I can go on and author 10 in a year if I have the time, right? So look at how, that helps. That is by scaling my own self resource, which is,
Yeah.
the knowledge that I have. So there are many ways, to scale this. It could be by different digital assets. It could be
Mm-hmm.
by even agribusiness, looking at what you do now. Where do you currently operate? Is it limited to just the production side? How can you
Yeah.
scale up? Do you want to, you know, as we know, processing
Mm.
just multiplies what's it called now, the income that you can
Mm.
possibly make, rather than, so you just want to look at different opportunities. On what are you, ask yourself, what is it that I'm leaving on the table that I
Yeah.
can also convert into value? I think that just summarizes it up beautifully. That what is it that you're leaving on the table and you can summarize. And that's where that now leads back to, I am a big, 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 big fan of, walking your talk and, showing up solidly. That is when it now comes back to you to scale up on yourself, your knowledge resources, because you can only give as much, as you have. And of course, I'll go back to technology, which
Yeah.
doesn't have to be, technical roles alone. Tech sales, product design, different forms. I have seen tech roles in some cases, like I say, break household courses, right? Like you just
Yeah.
get that first place, and before you know it, you're earning this because you applied yourself and you're solving real, real challenges. And yeah, there are many things that can
Yeah.
be, explored in terms of diversification for yourself to weather
Yeah.
economic fluctuations. Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for that packed answer. And if you want to learn more, I think you can check out the well written book. As you're reading that book, she's diversifying her her revenue sources. Thank you so much, Shalabi, for that answer.
Yes,
I
I
would
should also mention that there's a sale. There's an ongoing sale on that book. So the price is 7.5. This month is 5,006.
nice, nice, nice.
A shameless plug.
This year they say you no grief for anybody.
No, no, no.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much. I will quickly go. So this is the last round. It's a speed round, so very quick, short, sweet answers. I know Ayo is great at that, and this question would actually be good for Ayo, good for the whole ecosystem. So Ayo, this is on everyone's mind. Attracting investments because I mean we have to stay alive. So what key factors make businesses attractive to investors as the economic environment becomes more challenging? how should agribusinesses position themselves? How should we be thinking of positioning this reality of today?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think today's reality is definitely, I mean, hyper focusing on agri sectors is investors definitely want to see USD investment. Even your banks, I promise
Yeah,
you, just do one export trade. Your bank manager will come to your office. So just like don't see USD, right? So you have to be
yeah,
thinking about how do I keep my costs in naira, but how can I earn
mm,
USD? So that's something like every business should actively be thinking about. That's my take. And
mm,
it's not necessarily export of crops itself. There are many other things you can export, like
mhm,
carbon removal units, and I mean, there's so many
yeah,
things. Just think about like the way we're trying to export Fida, which has powered ThriveAgric for so long, and now trying to offer it
yeah.
to other people. Right? But you need to ask like, how do you get USD?
I think that direct is straight to the point. How do you find a way to get foreign income? And the way Travel Greek is thinking about it, like you said, is exporting in a sense this technology. So as a business, just find a way to to do something that looks like that, where you're keeping your factors of production local and still earning a diversified source of income, not just local income, but also foreign income. So I think that's direct, that's straight to the point. And as we wrap up, I would do one speed round with Shalapi and one more with Ayo. And I think the conversations, I hope these have been helpful so far. I hope it's provided a lot of insights. It's giving you a framework to think about how, as a business, you can navigate these challenging economic times. Because, like Shalapi mentioned at the beginning, it's touching all of us. I think every single person has felt their income or their purchasing power uh, dwindle. It has touched you when you went to ask for the price of something as simple as food. So my question would be to Ayo and to Shalapi. I'm just going to open it up. I think we'll start from Ayo this time, and just talking about uh, looking ahead, what major trends, innovations, and opportunities do you see shaping the future of the agribusiness sector in Nigeria and in Africa? What should we be thinking about? Looking ahead, and how can we possibly position to capitalize this? Yeah. But before that, looking ahead, what major trends do you see?
Hmm. I mean, I see like definitely like a lot of focus on like bringing cost of production down, because like that's very critical. So there'll be a lot of focus on beyond you produced on 1 million hectares, right? Like what's actually the yield per hectare. There's going to be a lot of focus on attracting a lot of carbon financing.
Yeah.
Definitely, I think there's going to be a lot of focus on
Hmm.
exports. Definitely. That's my thinking on that space. So which is just efficiency and alternative sources of revenue beyond what we're used to.
Yeah.
That's my thinking on what I see from a trend perspective. But in terms of what shapes us, I think like be really critical because like fundamentally we have to be able to say if we put $1 on a farmer's field, right? How
Yeah.
can we constantly over the years multiply the value that could come out of there? Because until we get that yield perspective right, we can never really bring down the cost of food.
Hmm.
So that's something that'll be critical. That'll be something that I think we need, and whether that's through precision farming, figuring out um ideas around climate change, figuring out the best market for our crops. It will always really be like, how do we ensure that we can get the most value from investments going into agriculture? That's my thinking right now.
Hmm. Hmm. I think that's interesting. That's not an answer I was actually expecting. So if you're a business, I think you've gotten some insights from one of the brain boxes behind ThriveAgric and how he sees a major trend. So thinking around carbon financing and just the global markets, responding to what the investors globally in Europe, in America, what you're looking to finance, in addition to the great work you're actually doing, I think you should consider that. So, Shalapi, very quickly, What would you say? What do you see as a growing trend or opportunity that is shaping the African and Nigerian market?
Oh well, Ayo, took a nice twist on that, and trust me, I got some insights from that. But without belaboring what he had mentioned ahead, um, I see a lot of minimization of operational costs, particularly
Yeah,
because that is one area where your margins can quickly get eroded, right? So without sacrificing, the thoroughness, supervisory skills, knowledge that comes with, operational costs, um, but just to see how that can be minimized and,
yeah,
you know, the required results are still achieved. Secondly, I see, and because this is a global practice as well, as Africans, and as a person, we do not like handouts, right?
yeah,
But to the depth of challenges in Africa's agriculture, particularly because it is still largely weather-driven agriculture, would
yeah.
require a lot of brilliant intervention, funds that can, close that gap and also introduce and enable advanced methods of agriculture, this
Mm,
actual science of agriculture and not just the art of agriculture. Because hey, like you said, what will happen is we would see a lot of exports and a lot of markets rely on Africa's agriculture. So what that means is that if it goes bad, I mean, it goes bad pretty much for everybody quickly. So those two, in addition to what I had mentioned, are things that
mm.
uh, I see shaping the future of agribusiness.
I think that's fantastic, honestly, and very very true. Thank you so much, Shalapi, for doubling down on some of those things and providing unique insights. So before I proceed to the final words, we actually have some a few questions from the audience. I can't take all of them, but I'll take maybe one or two because I've been putting you on the hot seat, asking you questions. Now they in the audience get to do the same thing and put you on the hot seat and ask you questions. So thank you very much for showing up for this webinar. Is there a plan on how we can reduce the cost of inputs? It seems to be a major bottleneck, and this is from Oladosu Olarinde. So yeah, he's asking this. I think any of us can take this. Maybe Ayo can take this. Maybe yeah. Is there a plan?
Yeah. I mean, I think like it's definitely like a factor of like cost of production, right?
Yeah,
Because like even things like fertilizers are made from other components that are imported into the country. So I think just a lot of long-term focus on how can we begin to get some of these products done locally. I know
yeah,
an organization like OCP is doing a lot of investment into getting the ammonia from Nigeria. So hopefully that reduces like importation. I know several great organizations are trying to figure that out. It will take a while, but I think if we can begin to bring a lot of those production costs local, then we'll see price of inputs reduce. But I
yeah,
think another thing that could be interesting is actually the precision in the application of inputs, right? So if you use, I mean, instead of using 6, is it possible to use 4? Or even
yeah.
if you use 4 as you use normally, but can you apply it in a way that
Hmm.
the farm is actually getting the entire value for 4, right? Not that you spray once a day and then it gets wiped off, right? In a way that you actually that the commensurate yield can justify the cost.
Yeah.
Um, so that's what I think.
Fantastic. So that sounds like precision agriculture because it sounds like this follows the maybe Temi just hold on a little bit on that. We'll get to the next one soon. Uh, it sounds like the just-in-time approach for lean manufacturing applied to agriculture, where you're trying to trim down on wastage, on excesses. You want to make sure you're using the right amounts. You're not spray and pray, just cover the entire land when you probably just need 60-70% of that to actually get the same level of output. So thank you so much. I think we had one more question that I can okay. I mean, one more question that I can take. So from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, all the way because this is Africa. How it's not just Nigeria that is experiencing, even though we are feeling it's in Africa, one of the hardest but other countries are also experiencing similar inflationary trends. So from Dar es Salaam, additionally, technology can help agribusinesses to manage risks, for example, by providing access to real-time data. Okay, yes, yes, yes. I hope Fida. Okay, okay. So this is more like a comment. So we have one more question from Oladapo. Thank you so much for that comment, Eric. How can we get access to farm project financing or partnership with ThriveAgric? I think this person is very direct. Is this something that you do at ThriveAgric? Is this something you offer? So, Ayo, do you want to give it a shot before
Yeah, always
we
always happy
call
to
it a day?
partner. I mean, especially what we're doing with Fida. So totally I think since you sent this message on LinkedIn, we'll definitely reach out and follow up with you to engage.
Awesome. So the team would reach out and would see how we can make it work. Awesome. So Aya, Shalapi, you've done a fantastic job. We're at the hour, 4 minutes are over the hour actually, and you have been patient. You've provided your insights. You've left us with words of wisdom. You let us know how businesses should position themselves to take advantage of these opportunities that are coming up. And it's been a very great one. Do you have any last words? That maybe a question we didn't ask. Um, do you have any last words? Any last comments? Yeah. So
Oh,
I'll
well,
start. Yeah.
okay. So I'll go first and then leave the landlord to wrap up. Well, I'll just say that agriculture is beautiful, but essentially it is not a get rich quick, you know,
Yeah.
scheme as we've seen. It requires some level of art, science, passion for growth and resilience. Um, More than anything, personally, I would love to see more younger, players in agriculture, and with existing and you know also newer platforms and rails
Yeah.
like Fida, like Tribe is doing with Fida, it becomes easier and attractive, for entry. So I mean, it's just one world we've got, it's just one continent, it's just this one nation for so many of us. I know that some people on this call, they have like three passports, but hey, so let's protect this one and let's ensure that we make the most out of motherland, out of Mother Earth for the motherland. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shalapi. I appreciate you and thank you for joining us. Ayo, do you have any final words? Okay.
I mean, just happy Women's Day to Shalakwe and all the amazing women at Thrive and everywhere out there. Thanks for all you do.
Amazing, amazing. We are wishing them in
You're
advance.
welcome.
We are grateful for the both of you joining this session today.
Okay.
You can get started for free. I mean, if you're excited about the prospects of using technology to grow agriculture, I got a comment actually as we were speaking that from one of the attendees that said, "I see the world use feeder. I see feeder shaping rural agriculture because anyone anywhere in the world can pick this technology up." We've had people on several locations from Kenya, from Sierra Leone, pick up the product and use it to get their operations on the ground. So there is a QR code on the screen. You should scan that QR code to learn how you can get started. Actually, it takes 60 seconds to fill. Our team will reach out to you, and because we love bonus, who doesn't like a good bonus? If you sign up, we'll offer you exclusive access to test some of the latest applications that we're actually deploying. If you sign up, this month. So yeah, that's a bonus for you. So scan that QR code. The link is www.thriveagric.com/feeder. I'll take that again, thriveagric.com/feeder. And thank you so much for joining, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you, Ayo. Thank you, Shalapi. Let's keep grinding.
Thank you, Fisa, your beautiful moderation. Thank you, Ayo. Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
Shalakwe. Thanks,
All
Sayo.
right.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Production